Ponca City Public Schools to order. We're going to start out with flag salute. So if everybody stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah.
Please pray with me. Father, we want to thank you for all of your blessings. This time of year brings parties, family, friends, food, and wishes of happiness, not to mention paying a tribute to our Savior. Please be with those who will travel, keep them safe. Be with those who will go hungry, cold, and those who do not have a family to go to. Keep them safe, warm, and fed. Also be with our men and women of the armed forces as they serve to protect us. Keep them safe and return them home soon. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Roll call.
Mr. Clark?
Present.
Dr. Kincaid?
Here.
Mr. Newsom?
Here.
Mr. Riley?
Here.
Mrs. Troop?
Present. Number 2 on the is the presentation and recognition. 2.1, presentation of the Employee of the Month and Friend of Education Awards. The first one is the Certified Employee of the Month. It is Anne Marie Nielsen, Woodlands Elementary 5th grade teacher. She'll step forward. Step away.
Woodlands Elementary School is thrilled that Anne-Marie Nielsen is being honored as a Certified Employee of the Month for December 2016. Anne-Marie is very deserving of this award. Mrs. Nielsen has taught for Ponca City Schools for 7 years, including 4 years teaching 5th grade at Woodlands. She is a positive and uplifting teacher and coworker. Her classroom is a busy, happy place in which students thrive and learn. She raises her students to be leaders by sponsoring Woodlands Student Council. She uses many technologies in her classroom and is only one of a handful of elementary teachers in the district to participate in the Engage program. Beyond instruction, Mrs. Nielsen cultivates meaningful relationships with her students and their families each year. Students love Mrs. Nielsen. In addition to the pressures of the classroom, Anne-Marie serves the school in many ways. She is the Woodlands representative for the Ponca City Association of Classroom Teachers, student council sponsor, after-school tutor, accelerated reading co-chair, gifted and talented teacher, and faculty spirit co-chair. She always has fresh ideas for engaging her students and is always willing to help out other teachers that need assistance in her area of expertise. Thank you, Mrs. Nielsen, for being a part of the Woodlands family. You make Woodlands a better place. You work hard and deserve to be recognized as the 2016 December Certified Employee of the Month for Ponca City Public Schools.
Thank you. Next, the Support Employee of the Month is Kendrick Gentry, Ponca City High School ELL Teacher Assistant.
Kendrick is a teacher's assistant at Poe High, where he works with English language learner students. Kendrick is a great asset to the high school. He's kind, resourceful, and always encouraging our students to make progress each day. Kendrick assisted with student registration over the summer and did a wonderful job supporting our limited English-speaking parents. He's currently working to create a very helpful resource to teach proper pronunciation to our students during their must times. Kendrick is always willing to go out of his way to help out where needed, to step up and fill in for classes, and to assist his peers. Our students and staff value Kendrick's expertise and his friendship.
Next is Friends of Education, Carl Spohr and Amber Wilcher, Liberty Elementary volunteers.
Carl Spohr and Amber Wilcher have become an integral part of Liberty Elementary's Positive Behavior Initiative. They volunteer many hours each week to run the Spot Your Ticket cash-in cart, allowing students to turn in good behavior tickets for school coupons. Carl and Amber assist students in counting tickets and choosing rewards. Running the cart also involves keeping track of which students cash in for which award. This data allows the committee to track rewards that are popular and provides information to see if each grade level is using spotcha tickets to reward positive behavior. Without Carl and Amber's support, our initiative would not be successful. In addition to running our cash and cart, Carl and Amber are responsible for popping popcorn for all Liberty students once a month, and Carl pops the best popcorn we've ever had.
Shelley would like for you all to meet her in the hall so she can take your picture. Next on the agenda is public comment, and since no one has requested to speak to the board, we will move on. 3.2, vote to recess regular board meeting and call a public hearing for tribal leaders and Native American parents to discuss the participation of Native American students in educational programs, to comment on educational programs, and to review Section 2.5, the board policy, Native American Community Relations. So, you vote to
Move for approval. Second.
Mr. Clark? Dr. Kincaid?
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
We're voting to recess.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop?
aye.
Chris.
Chris?
Good evening. How's everybody doing?
Great. Great.
Seems like it's been a year. Well, it has been a year since I seen you, huh?
Yeah, it seemed like it.
Well, I'm here because we received Impact Aid dollars. The Impact Aid program, just to kind of refresh everyone's memory, exists to help federally impacted school districts adversely affected by the loss of tax revenue caused by federal ownership of land or the enrollment of children whose parents work or live on federal lands. Students in military housing, low-rent housing, and Indian housing. Those are examples. Ponca City schools are impacted by students who live in federal low-rent housing and by students living on Indian lands. Because we count students on Indian lands, we must have Indian policies and procedures in place, and they must be reviewed annually. Tribal leaders and Native American parents are also given the opportunity to discuss the participation of Native American students in educational programs within the district. This hearing is held at this December school board meeting. Our student counts for last year in Impact Aid were 113 children living on Indian land and 49 children living in low-rent housing, for a total of 162 students. The preliminary count for this year, fiscal year 2018, is up by 19 students this year to 181. The Indian land students have increased a little bit by 19, and it's kind of weird, but the low-rent housing is exactly the same, 49. Even though it's different students, it's exactly 49 kids. And this count, Ponca City barely qualifies for these funds. 3% is the cutoff to receive Impact Aid money, and we fluctuate between low 3%, no higher than 4%. The Impact Aid program has not been fully funded since the mid-1970s, and Ponca City Public Schools receives a prorated amount of what is actually due them, and it comes out to be about 5.5%. It is paid over several payments and years because of the way the money is appropriated. It's not forwardly funded. It's appropriated each year, and they see how much money they have, and then it's dispersed between the Impact Aid recipients. But in reality, Ponca City Public Schools will receive less than 100% of their prorated amount. I think when all is said and done for this year, they won't even, probably 92% of the 5.5% that they'll actually receive. The first installment of the FY 2017 has not come in yet. but it should be on its way. Congress did not pass an appropriations bill. They are operating on a continuing resolution up until April 2017. The Impact Aid Office has requested the OMB to allow them to operate and disperse funds at last year's level of funding until then. Impact Aid, like I said before, is not forward funded, so we will not know how much money is actually in the program until that appropriation in April. And the money that we do receive only partially replaces tax dollars not collected, and it can be used in any way the district chooses. Our district chooses to put it into general fund, and it pays for a variety of items such as buses, books, utilities, etc. The Native American students also I have to give a report out of their participation or level of participation in extracurriculars and different activities. And I think I gave everyone a copy here. I won't read exactly everything, but just some numbers. In football, we have 28 Native Americans participating, wrestling 19, basketball, both boys and girls, there's 4 on each one of those teams, 6 baseballers, 6 softballers, 5 volleyballers. We got 2 cheerleaders, 2 high steppers, 17 marching band, 13 symphonic band, 11 symphony strings, 9 chamber strings, 8 chorus, 3 chorale, 6 golfers, which is kind of neat, 2 tennis boys, no tennis girls this year, 2 swimmers, which is a 200% increase from last year. We had 1. 9 track girls, 10 track boys, 4 cross-country runners, 4 soccer boys, 5 soccer girls. Out of the 1,011 slots available, 180 of them were filled by Native American students, which is 17.8%. Native kids make up 18.23% of the 9th through 12th grade population. So it's pretty close to what the population is, the representation. And also through down here on the bottom, the gifted and talented representation. We have 117 gifted and talented Native Americans out of 917 district-wide. And I will step aside and, well, answer any questions first, but yes.
On your participation, what does it take to qualify? Just to be on the rolls or?
Yeah, I run the roster, the class roster or the team roster of the kids who are enrolled, like in football.
I mean, your football and wrestling seems high to me. 28 footballers and 19 wrestlers?
Yeah.
I mean, do you have to be a percent? I guess my question, to be considered a Native American to get on this list?
They'd be in Title VII program. They have the paperwork that shows that they're Native American descent. It's a paper that we keep on file.
And then they just declare that? It doesn't have to be a 25% or 50%?
No, there's, no, that for Title VII, JOM, you have to be 25% or an enrolled member, or 25% combined of your tribes. Because there are some kids who are a lot of everything, but not enough to be enrolled. But that's Johnson O'Malley. In Title VII, you have to be a descendant, or you can be enrolled too, but there are some kids who are not, and their grandparent or parent were, and they can qualify through that way, but they have to give us the paperwork.
Okay.
And they're not all recognizable nowadays. Even my youngest son has blue eyes, but he's on the Ponca roll.
Chris,
Okay,
you threw percentages at the board. Help me if because it's been a while since we looked at this, but basically I think that the last time we looked at this, that if we received all the impact aid money we were eligible for, we'd receive somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000.
Yeah.
And we currently receive, I think last year was 70,000.
Yeah, our
Right.
our formula for how much we receive, like I said, is 5.5%. I was just explaining it to my wife, and I was trying to think of an easy way to explain it. And just say, like, for just explanation purposes, we get $100 if everything was fully funded. But since it's not, we get $5.50. But now we don't even have enough for everybody to receive that amount, so we get like
Right.
$4.90
Right. So,
instead of $100, $4.90.
okay.
Okay, well, I'll yield the microphone now. Thank you.
Just ask if anybody.
Does anybody want to make any comments?
Okay, we go back into session.
Okay. All right.
Before we go back into session, just a couple of things to remind the board. There are basically two groups of impacted organizations. You have people who receive impact aid because they have military or other federal installations within their school district, and you have districts that receive impact aid like we do because of the presence of either low-income housing or native land. In the world that is Washington, D.C., the school districts that receive money because of military installation and other federal installations receive a higher percentage of impact aid than school districts that receive impact aid because of Native American students or because of low-income kids. That's been going on for a long time. There are Oklahoma is a state that is heavily impacted by Native American population, and our state is very active. Chris goes to Washington, D.C. Usually every year, I think, and tries to lobby on our behalf to try to do two things. One, to get a fair distribution of the money between federal installations and Native students. And the other issue is this whole issue of what percentage we get. The reason that we get such a small percentage of the money that we should receive is because of the size of school district that we are. If we were a school district of 500 students with the same student population on Indian land or the same student population in low-income housing, we would get, if they had all the money to fund it, we would get 100% of our allocation. So it's because of the size district we are that we take such a hit on this. And in my mind, it's discriminatory, but it's like a lot of federal programs. It's a program that the federal government has made a lot of promises in that they haven't delivered. And especially later on today when we talk about budget and those kinds of things, that $500,000 we're not going to get this year would be pretty helpful in our current budget situation. So I just wanted to make those comments.
So what is their reasoning for not funding it?
Well, they don't have enough money.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's the issue. It's the issue of all the obligations the federal government has, and especially in this impact aid area, it's not having enough, not fully funding the program.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when you think about the federal budget and what gets funded and what doesn't, military programs are generally going to receive, I mean, if you look at the federal budget, you'll see growth in military spending because most people consider that to be a priority for the national government. The whole impact aid issue, the other problem is not very many states are as heavily impacted by Native American land as Oklahoma is. And so when you look at that broad picture and you look at where there are votes to pass legislation, we don't have a lot of help for us. There's lots of states that have military installations. So it's just a matter of, of who's being affected. And they don't fully fund the military either. I want to make that clear. So when it gets time to vote on allocations, you can get more votes together to vote for a bill that's going to higher fund military installations. When you look at all 50 states, the votes aren't there to get what we think would be a fair allocation done. And so it's just politics. It's just politics at the national level.
All right. Do I have a motion to return to regular session?
Yes.
Second.
Okay.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Troop?
Aye.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Okay, number 4.1, building assessment reviews. And we're going to have one from first Thad Delbeck from the high school.
Bear with me just a minute. Some technical issues. Okay. Okay, I'm here to talk to you about the current reality at the high school, as you can see there. These are last year's EOI results on our end of instruction tests. You can see there, the red is the state level of proficiency, and the blue is our district level of proficiency. So in English 2, we're at 72. The state was at 76. In English 3, the state was at 82, we're at 77. In Algebra 1, state 75, POHI at 67. Algebra 2, the state at 72, POHI at 48. In Geometry, the state at 79, POHI at 76. And in Biology, the state at 48, and POHI at 34. Again, those are last spring's state testing numbers. And then U.S. history, I'm sorry, is the state at 63 and POHI at 53. When you put all that together with the many other things that make up the how you get a grade in the current A through F report card system, that puts POHI at a letter grade of D, or a 63%. Something we're not very pleased with, and I'm going to talk to you about what we're going to do to improve that. I think you'll see it becomes pretty apparent in the current A through F grading system. The bottom 25%, or what we call the bottom quartile, is heavily weighted in that system. You'll see our current reality with our ACTs for last year. The state average was a score of 20.4, the national average of 20.8, and the POHI average of 21.4. So we're still well above state and national averages on our ACT, or with our college-bound students. So I think when you compare our ACT results with our EOI results, you'll see that the bottom 24, or the bottom quartile is an area that we really need to improve on. So our plans for addressing weaknesses and targeting the improvement that we need at POHI. Again, focusing on the bottom quartile, some targeted remediation provided for identified students, and we can do that a number of different ways. We can do that through our MUST, or our mandatory uninterrupted study time that we have twice a week. We can do that for test prep in our boot camp that we've developed in the last few years. And then we also have students and teachers who do that before and after school, work with students who have been identified who need some remediation. Teachers in non-tested state or non-state tested subject or courses will assist with remediation for tested subject areas or tested subject teachers by a couple of things there, or three things: taking students during MUST who don't need remediation. So those areas where we know we're going to be testing next spring, during MUST, our tested subject teachers will identify students who need some extra help. Those teachers not in those tested subjects will take those kids from them so that they can remediate a smaller group and be more effective. Number two there, teaching cross-curriculum. Some examples of that would be our English 3 teachers will write about U.S. history. They can work on their writing skills in English 3 while learning some U.S. history concepts. Science will reinforce math concepts. Another example, art will support geometry, and we can do that in lots of other ways. And then number 3, Oklahoma and world history will support U.S. history by emphasizing the content that is on the U.S. history test blueprint. Kind of attempting to be more specific with some of the things that we're talking about in Oklahoma history and world history that will help us improve in our U.S. history scores. Starting in the 15-16 school year, we made a change in science, or in the order in which we offer some of our science courses. Starting last year, we had ninth graders, for the most part, not all ninth graders, but we had ninth graders, instead of taking physical science, they took environmental science. We've been discussing that for a couple of years. We felt like environmental science would be a better prep for biology when these students became 10th graders, and have them in a position where they could be more successful during on the state biology test during their 10th grade year. This year's sophomore class will be our first class to take the biology EOI after having had environmental science as a foundation. Throughout the first 9 weeks, I continued to check with our biology teachers, and they felt like this year's sophomores had a better grasp of some of the biology concepts that they weren't seeing in years past. Other areas in which we're working on and have our focus on improving, improved utilization of common formative assessments, emphasized focus on state test blueprints, continued efforts to strengthen the PLC process, and an increased administrative presence in assigned PLCs. I know that says to initiative, and it should have an S on the end of it, so excuse me. And then I also understand what the number 2 means, but I put 3 of them, initiatives that we're working on, some things we got going at POHI. You may or may not have heard of our Positively POHI program that we've had going. This is our 2nd year for it. It's just designed to identify kids who are caught doing the right thing. Contact was made with local businesses, and we asked for just small prizes. Sonic gives us all kinds of Route 44 Cokes, and the theater gives us movie tickets. And there's many other businesses that were willing to chip in. And we identify students doing the right thing, whether it's picking up somebody else's trash or being polite or holding the door open for someone, something like that. And we recognize those students to try to promote that kind of behavior and improve our culture. Recently, we began just a few months ago the POHI Pride program. I receive phone calls every 2 or 3 months from our neighbors to the east of our student parking lot, and they're pretty nice, the neighbors are, but they want us to do something about the trash coming out of the student parking lot that blows across the street. So I worked with Jared Freeman, and we came up with this idea of allowing our groups, our student clubs, organizations, our fine arts groups, and our athletic teams to volunteer weekly or bi-weekly, and we provide them with the stuff they need, and they go about, again, focusing on the student parking lot, but they've been over the entire campus, and there's been a real enthusiastic reception to this program by all those groups, and it's made a big difference. And then lastly, the Parent Contact Initiative. We're making a concerted effort this year to improve parent-teacher relationship. Teachers have been tasked with increasing the number of parent contact phone calls made weekly, and in an effort to make more positive parent phone calls, just to share good news with what their student is doing, just so that when parents see caller ID and it says Ponca City High School, they don't immediately cringe. They may be receiving some good news, and that's something we're focusing on also. That's the end of my PowerPoint. I'll entertain questions.
I got a question or two. Obviously, below state average in every category is not very acceptable. I mean, that's not good. The other thing, if I remember right, the raw test score is on 8F, and I could care less about the 8F, but I believe the raw test score is down the last year or two from the previous years. Okay.
You talking about on EOIs?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or the 8F. I think it's down a couple points, but not a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess where I'm going to go with this, I know this year you've gone to a 7 class period day and you've reduced must. From an outsider looking in, That's going to be less instruction time for each kid in each class. I'm having a hard time seeing how they're going to be better in a subject
Certainly.
when they have less time for instruction.
Well, that's
with the 7 class days,
that's part of
7 class periods.
That's part of the puzzle we have to put together, was offering the number of courses that the state requires us to offer, along with the electives they require us to offer. With the budget cuts and the number of teachers that we had to do without, in order to be able to cover all those things and try to improve also in this testing area, it was one of the changes we had to make.
Okay, that was going to go to my second part of the question. If we hadn't have made the budget cuts on the teachers, the 15 or 20 or however many there were, I don't remember exactly, you think the grades would be better?
Well, I don't know, since we haven't tested on the same
Right.
period day yet. So, I certainly understand what you're saying. If it hadn't been for some changes that we were forced to make, I wouldn't have changed the schedule. I liked having must four times a week, and I liked the 55-minute period. But tough times, and we have to be able to adjust and meet the requirements that the state puts on us.
What's your average class size?
It's about, at this point, it's about 27, 28.
Okay.
I thought they were getting rid of the EOI test. Am I wrong about that?
Well-
I guess I'm wrong about that.
There's still going to be testing. It is changing.
Oh, okay.
And I don't even think we know today exactly what it's going to look like.
Oh, okay. I knew that there was
There's no longer
something
going to be
different.
7 tests.
Pardon me?
There's no longer going to be 7. It looks like 4, but that's still,
So they're just cutting down so you won't have to take as many.
well, yeah. And they're going to call them sophomore tests, although that's not really right either. One of the tests is during their junior year.
Oh, so they're
but-
changing the name.
Well, I don't know. Is it still going to be called EOIs?
No.
Okay.
They're like the sophomore.
Okay, sophomore assessment test.
Okay. Does anybody else have questions
Thank you, sir.
for Mr. Dvorak? Thank you. Next is Jennifer Martinez from Liberty.
Good evening. Thanks to Thad for working out the technical difficulties in getting it started for us. This is our school report card from last year, and we moved up. We were a D- the previous year, and we moved up to a D+. The 69, we were 1 point away from that. And as Thad was saying, that bottom quartile is something that we're definitely working on. The next slide is, these are our OCCT data from 2016. 70% of our third graders passed the reading test. That's the highest number that it's been in many years at Liberty. 63% of our third graders passed the math test. Our fourth grade, 61% passed reading, math 59%, and our fifth grade was 48% in reading and 45% in math. That group had lots of turnover, and we'll kind of talk about that as an improvement later. Some of the things that we're working on to improve instruction at Liberty overall is that we have weekly PLC meetings with our instructional coach. I sit in on many of those meetings, and we plan monthly SMART goals. So the teachers take their curriculum guides and they pick one to work on. They do a pre-assessment, teach the content, and do a post-assessment, and we can sit and look at that data. Our monthly faculty meetings are all professional development based, so we work on training teachers on district and our school initiatives. We are part of an OTIS grant from the State Department, that's Oklahoma Tiered Intervention Systems of Support. It's a mouthful. And as part of that, we are a PBIS school, which means we implement positive behavior intervention systems. Our Friends of Education this month are very important in that PBIS, in that at Liberty we really look for rewarding positive behavior and giving students the thanks for that. And along with that, spending time being positive with students decreases classroom disruptions and allows teachers to teach more. The Otis grant also provides us with an external coach, and so that is somebody that is a graduate student at OSU who comes to our campus and works with us on implementing interventions, making sure that we're on track for our RTI process, that we're providing Tier 2 and Tier 3 support to our students. And we've been a part of that grant for about 5 years now. Our goal is to become a maintenance site, and so that the State Department will send other campuses from Oklahoma to Liberty and to see what we're doing. We hope to be that maintenance site by the end of this year. We're implementing a writing portion. That's our last portion to be implemented. One of the initiatives at Liberty is Kagan Structures. They provide not necessarily games, but they provide teachers with a way of teaching things that makes students more engaged. Students pair up. They talk about things. There's flashcards, and they're just ways for the teachers to teach these structures, and the students to stay engaged in the learning. Because we found that, if they're staring off into space, we're not able to reach them. That's overall things that we're working on. To improve math specifically, we're working on implementing Envision Math to Fidelity. That's the district adopted curriculum. We meet, like I said, in PLCs, and we talk about the quarterly benchmarks that come from the curriculum department. They are written by the instructional coaches. And we also give STAR assessments monthly, and so that gives us a lot of data that then we can use to guide our instruction. We do daily fact fluency, so each student, K to 5, does math facts every single day for 2 minutes on their level. So third graders are working on multiplication, some first graders are working on addition, some first graders have moved up to subtraction. We found that working on that math fluency helps them when they go to apply the math content. They're not spending so much time doing the math facts and figuring that out. They're working on solving those problems. Teachers do accelerated math daily. That's part of that STAR package that we purchased this year. And there is ST Math, which we got from the grant from Conoco. And K and first grade students do that twice a week for 30 minutes. And second through fifth grade students work for 90 minutes weekly, generally in 3 30-minute sessions. We also provide Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions to students. If we notice that students are falling behind or having difficulty, teachers will pull the Tier 2 students into small groups and work with them. And if we notice that they're still struggling, we have assistants and teacher help that work individually with students. An example of Tier 3 would we have an assistant who would go into a classroom and pull a student for a few minutes and work on the math facts with them if they're struggling to get those math facts or they're not moving forward quickly. Some ways that we're improving in reading is we are working again to implement to Fidelity the Journeys, our new textbook curriculum that we got this year. The quarterly benchmarks and STAR assessments we also do for reading. We have our Tier 2, which is 45-minute intensive reading instructions in small groups. Every student in Liberty receives Tier 2 instruction. We focus on our literacy first skills, and we were also received some materials from the State Department, and it's a Voyager curriculum, and it is a very scripted program to work with struggling readers to provide them with the support they need to get back on track. And then also for Tier 3, which is 15-minute individualized target instruction. Most of the time that's in 3rd through 5th grade, and they work with reading fluency, which is the number of minutes that a number of words they can read per minute, because research has shown that helps student comprehension. If they're able to read fluently, they're spending less time word calling or word solving, and they're able to comprehend what they're reading. This is our math and reading data wall. So we use the STAR assessments, like I said, monthly, and every month we track the student data. STAR gives us students, and they group them into green, which means that they're on or above level. Blue means that they're close to being on grade level or closer. Yellow is students that we need to be paying attention to, that they might need some intervention, and the red is these students, need attention and they need it now. As we track them, next to the student score, we do up and down arrows to let us know, is the student moving up? Are they moving down? Are they staying the same? And we look at that data in PLCs every week and track that data. This is using STAR tests. It can give us some projections on the number of students that they believe at this current time would pass the OCCT test. So they've correlated their data to what it would look like, and I know that they're not really OCCT anymore. I don't know. We don't really know the name. There's a name. We'll find out soon. For third grade right now, if they were taking the test, that they predict that 60% would pass the reading, 69% would pass the math, 74% of our students in fourth grade would pass reading, and 80% would pass math. And in fifth grade, 64% in reading and 77% are on track right now. So we look and track that data, and it gives us that data to know, like, who do we really need to focus in on. Looking forward, these are some of the things that we're really going to, make sure that we work for. Reduce teacher turnover. Traditionally at Liberty, the turnover was anywhere from 50 to 60% over the last few years. Last year it was 15. We replaced 3 classroom teachers, and our goal this year is to not have any teacher turnover. Having a consistency of teachers in grade levels and teachers learning and becoming experts at their grade level is really important to student success. And so we're really, providing a culture that teachers want to stay and, having them love Liberty and want to be there. Provide support for our growing ELL population. Every year we have more and more ELL students, and we're and looking at data. That is definitely an area that we need to make sure that we are providing that support so that they're making the growth that they need. And looking in the last couple of years, their growth has been pretty flat. We haven't noticed a lot of improvement in some of our ELL students. We have over 25 students currently from 3 different language groups. Continuing with our attendance awareness. This is one where at Liberty we struggle with having students come to school every day and come to school on time. And continuing to educate families on the importance and letting them know that even missing 1 or 2 days a month really, puts their student behind. And if there's a way to make an appointment after school, or, just because you woke up not feeling good, try and come to school and see if you can make it. And then continuing to provide training and support to teachers and best practices and things like Kagan, and make sure that we are giving the teachers what they need in order to be successful in the classroom. I talk really fast. Any questions?
The first slide, could you pull it up?
Uh-huh.
The
report card?
Right.
Uh-huh.
What does that look like from last year?
This is last year, so we went from...
And the year before?
We were a D-. I think it was a 62, so we've gone up to 69.
But was it very much, I guess,
it was our reading scores.
Or did they swap places? Did the fourth grade just stay about the same when they
Our
went to fifth grade?
Our third grade scores went up enough to bump our whole,
okay.
To bump that total reading grade up. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
My compliments to you and the staff. If I remember right, out of all our schools, I think there were only 3 that had a higher raw score on this than the previous year, and your school was one of the 3, so that shows good improvement there.
Our third grade teachers worked really hard last year to
I didn't know why, but overall,
yes.
when 3 out of 10 or however many we have improved, that's a compliment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.